in knowing how to do something, knowing how to live something out, or knowing the correct responses to something in complicated social situations. So it's a completely different way of and how we respond to stimuli around us, and especially how we respond to phenomenology has caused me to pursue a very different style of research and a very different style of data, and finally a very different style of excited about phenomenology, and I hope that this session can be a jumping off point where we can dialogue together as a group of scholars about these sort of issues. Thank you.
Right, thank you, Adam. So we started off now with a good conceptualization of phenomenology and what it is versus what it is not. In the context here, if what's important is Adam has supported us in terms of how do we know what we see out there, and how do we understand what knowledge is from the context of living through that knowledge, understanding what knowledge is, how that knowledge comes about, which is very much unstructured actually. It is not seen in, as what Adam talks about, the ghost in machine. It's not in numbers, but rather it has different assumptions about understanding knowledge and the social reality around it, right? Perhaps now we could go over to Nabil, and Nabil perhaps want to take on from there and explain your point of view in terms of how phenomenology has expanded your understanding about the social reality and what it means, and how that has allowed you to expand your own worldview about what is phenomenology and knowledge about discovery of knowledge through phenomenology itself.
Thank you, Prof. Thank you all who are joining us today for this session. I'll share some slides. Here. Okay, my friend Adam has actually provided a very good background about phenomenology and how it is actually developed over the years. I know that it has got momentum in the recent years a lot from the scholars. Now, being a researcher, when I started my journey, so I was actually basically from my nature, I actually started from a qualitative background. So I was a bit confused because in the start, like there were different streams that comes under the qualitative research. So the one that is actually generally used is case study method. But my focus, the topic that I was actually focusing was the understanding alumni experiences and their engagement experiences with.
Nabil, yeah. We can't hear you, Nabil.
Sorry. You can't hear me. Can you hear me now? Yeah, can you hear me now?
Can you double check audio, Nabil?
Can you hear me now?
We are not able to hear you.
We can. It's a bit better now.
I can hear you clearly.
It's a bit better now.
Better now?
Yes. Can you speak some more? It's a little bit better now.
Okay. Is it okay now?
Yes.
Okay. Sorry for the interruption. Yeah. So when I started my journey, basically, so my aim and objective was to see how alumni engagement is happening in the Eastern settings, particularly the developing economies. Like in my case, it's Pakistan actually. So when I actually started searching about it, and I came to know like people are actually doing the research on alumni experiences, and let me bring in why I was actually doing it. As Prof. Elisha in the beginning said, the landscape of the research is changing, and day by day the organizations are actually getting in difficult situations. Like if I talk about from my angle, the organizations like public higher education institutions, they are actually financially getting tough times globally, and particularly because of the what could I say, like the decline of state funding towards the higher education institutions, and being organizations like the higher education institutions are getting difficult time, and the question that is actually arising day by day, and particularly after the post-COVID, this whole scenario has changed a lot. The financial sustainability challenges have begun to raise in globally, in US, in UK, in Germany. Now, those countries are specifically having a very strong systems already. But when we are actually talking about developing economies like Pakistan, we don't have a strong financial systems. So I was actually looking about something like how we can address this issue. So when I actually delve into this topic, I saw like the alumni engagement. Alumni are engaging a lot in the Western economies, and they are supporting their institutions to come up with some solutions and strong foothold financially. So when I actually started this whole journey, so my opinion, my objective was to see the lived experiences of alumni, because alumni are those people who have actually spent some time, their rich time, in fact, the golden memories with their institutions being students, and after graduation, they're actually again spending time with their universities actually. So I actually was interested in the lived experiences. But when I actually went into the different researches, I came to know like I need to see the lived experiences. Then I need to see which philosophy is actually pertaining to it, the individual experiences. Then, when the field of study is pertinent to individual experiences, lived experiences are the instant awareness of individual life events before any reflection or interpretation. And Georgie 2008 says, lived experiences provides a meaning to individuals' perceptions and attitude towards specific phenomena. And my objective was to know about the alumni attitudes, about engagement with their institutions in Pakistani settings. So the philosophy of phenomenology actually comes up here, and it was actually aligned with my research, because when I see different researchers working in this domain, they were mostly following the case study method. But actually, as compared to the case study method, phenomenology actually opens up to you, and it provides you a ground to play around, to get instant knowledge, and not only instant knowledge but in-depth knowledge about the phenomena that is happening. And then the phenomena was obviously alumni engagement. And being a phenomenologist, I actually adopted the interpretivist approach, or a stance, you can say, the worldview. And why the interpretative worldview? The reason was it was actually focusing on the internal logic of the how these participants or alumni are experiencing their journey with institutions. And when they're experiencing these journeys, okay, they are actually building some attitudes, some perceptions, some feelings about their experiences with their institutions and their relationship with their institutions, and form and at the end, those experiences with institutions are actually leading them to engage or not to engage with institutions. Now, phenomenology, as I said, provided me a way forward to look deeply into these attitudes of alumni, to look deeply into the feelings of alumni, and having a detailed conversation. Because phenomenology, the beauty of phenomenology is actually it provides you a room to have a detailed conversation, informal conversation, probing. You can probe as you want, okay. And there is a collection of lots of data that is coming up in the form of themes, in the form of like different things that is coming up later on. So actually, what could I say? It actually provided me a detailed account of alumni experiences, and really facilitated me in knowing what is actually happening when it comes to alumni engagement in developing economies as compared to the developed economies. Thank you, Doctor.
Thank you, Nabil. Nabil has shared with us the context of how the phenomenology episteme actually were very much applicable to his research, looking at sustainable financial sustainability of university, where information and knowledge about what's going on through the eyes of the alumni was not feasible if you go through the more structured path of looking at the available methodology to study the sustainability issues in Pakistan. And this also what Nabil actually points to is the importance of understanding as we move forward towards the future, the type of research we do will actually open the cast for, it opens wide the type of potential type of research that we can get into when we look into post-pandemic and the social reality of the issues out there actually. So now I would like to bring back Kat on stage. And Kat, if you're ready.
Thank you very much, Prof. Elisha. Let me just try and share. And good afternoon to fellow researchers and also Dr. Chris, who is on the floor, who is also in the floor today. I see you here. Let me just try and share my slide. Oh, hang on for a while, okay? I'm trying to get my slide out. Can you see?
Yes.
So allow me to share a little bit about my next paper, which is also part of this talk today. The title is Dancing with Humanistic Phenomenology. I'd like to share a little bit about my experience, how I went through, how I navigated this journey. But first of all, just have a look at this picture. And what do you see? What do you see? You see me in a journey. I'm wandering in the dark. Okay. And I was going to look at women who navigated to the peak in Malaysia. And the title of my thesis was Navigating to the Peak. And this study is about looking at senior Malaysian women leaders who actually navigated to the peak as CEOs or managing director, sitting at the top echelons. And this is not an easy feat because, first of all, access to this woman is difficult. And how do I approach this? I was just wondering as well. And my research objective in the first place was to really understand the lived leadership experiences of these women leaders. And 4 research questions were formulated. Let me just share one of them. The first one is what personal and professional relationships and experiences contributed to the leadership development of Malaysian women leaders who have served as heads of organizations. So this was the objective, and this was the question. So what am I going to do? Thinking, reflecting, and then wandering in the dark forest. Because for me, the philosophy is going deep into the knowing, going deep into the wondering, allowing myself, letting go of myself to the unknown, and to allow myself to discover true knowledge. And true knowledge is actually to be uncovered and discovered. So now going into this unknown can be quite scary actually, because I look around left and right, who can help me? I reach out to some researchers who have done the humanitical phenomenology, and some of them say, I've done my thesis, but I can't really put in words how to help you. So I embark on my journey. I look for the gurus, I read. So I wanted to have the freedoms, ladies and gentlemen, researchers, the freedom to learn from the experiences of the people, of the informants, and I had to go to the interpretive inquiry. And this is not just phenomenology. Phenomenology, there are many schools, okay? This is humanitics. Humanitics is like a different philosophy in itself. It's about interpretation. Humanitics comes from the word humani. It's actually the Greek messenger who actually got the message out from the Greek gods, helping them to interpret the real messages that they wanted to send to the subjects. So engaging in human science and lived experiences is something very intriguing, but I loved it. It resonates so much with who I am, a person who is really curious, So I take it as if it's actually dancing because engaging with the participants' life world, wow, going up close and personal to them, freedom to co-create, engaging, transforming, going into their life world, it's really immersive to the point of asking, am I willing to engage body, mind, and spirit? Body means I have to go close to them, or am I someone who does not want to go close to people? Mind, am I ready to embody the mind of the humanetics and also phenomenology? Am I willing to change my mind that what cannot be measured is also empirical? Am I willing to change my paradigm? Am I willing to have the spirit of perseverance and letting go of what I know? And at the end, I'd like to share that what I discovered was very insightful discovery, beauty at the edge of the forest, discovering something that was new. And I want to say that the novelty of the research contributed to the empirical and knowledge development of revealing the true nature of human experience, of which I would not have been able to if I just engage in a quantitative approach. So that was really practical contribution, because now in Malaysia, we really know the in-depth stories, the life stories. Although there were only 7 women, I was able to go up close with them and to really understand their life. And also this method is usually used for medical students, used by educational people in the education, but I was willing to take a risk to go into this method. And in my latest sharing, later on I will share with you how I did it and who are the people who contributed to it, also the books I read. So it was able to contribute to the theory of LICT and also transformational leadership. So this method actually opens me to the whole new world of discovery. You know the song A Whole New World, the Aladdin movie? It's something like that, flying on a magic carpet and finding and discovering something, opening me to the possibility of not being confined to only discovering that what can be measured, but to the whole new world of being comfortable to venture into the unknown. It's like giving a soul to the knowledge of discovery, giving a soul to the stories and experiences that were told to me. Could be mind-blowing. Yeah. So lastly, I wanted to say that I got into this method because, friends, I was willing to be challenged with my own mindset, with my own norms and of acquiring new knowledge. I was willing to be uncomfortable. I was willing to reach out. I was willing to engage. I was willing to be intimidated by what I was afraid to even discover. I was willing to go up close and personal. I was prepared for what the participants were going to reveal. I was prepared for another human being being vulnerable in front of me. I was courageous to let go of my own old norm into the unknown, wandering into the forest. I was willing to be like a child, curious. And with it, I will share about the learning process in the next question. Thank you.
Thank you, Kat, for that inspiring conversation about how phenomenology has actually expand your horizon about what knowledge is, about how to discover new knowledge actually. And it is this is a very interesting context where you actually touch on perhaps one of the most interesting angle towards in any research we delve in is how it changes us as a researcher, how it transforms us as a researcher, how it makes us even question our own understanding and assumptions about the world we're moving in. So I would now like to pose this back to Adam in terms of you could what is the learning process you went through when you applied the phenomenology episteme. You could share us in terms of give us some snippets, give us tantalize the audience with how you proceeded with using the phenomenology episteme and what was the learning process it was for you. Perhaps Adam, you can move with us and deepen our understanding and sharing of knowledge of the phenomenology episteme.
Certainly. probably a lot of all of those joining us on the call, the first section of our academic research is very much a time of wondering. It's a time of learning, but it's also a time of going down paths and coming back again, confusion. But I really appreciate the way that Phenomenology, in that she was so right in that it's an perspective or curiosity and the unknown. And so I was drawn.
Can't hear you. You're breaking up, Adam. You're breaking up. Breaking up. Breaking up, right? Yeah. Off your video.
Adam, you can try without the video if it's much easier for you. Right, we can hear you now.
Very feels like the view of things that I'm not sure where it will lead me. You know, it's like picking a path and you don't know the twists and turns, and that's a special and important part of research. Um, uh, well, those things, and I learn about them in a very close, intimate way. But then, and I was asking those questions mainly because I was coming from seeing different methodologies that yield results, or you learn the effects, or the drivers, or the antecedents of something. And I wanted to know what does phenomenology have to say once you've done it? How can it be useful to a wide cross section of researchers and practitioners in whatever subject area you're in? And so this is what has drawn me into looking specifically the embodiment of knowledge that phenomenology offers. That may that means is it removes what is known away from the focus individual, and into something that can be easily codified, as I mentioned earlier, with categories and numbers. It could be statistical analysis, which is extremely useful in various circumstances, but it orients knowledge away from the person. And sometimes, especially in the social sciences, they're social. Make a great or a leader of higher education inform policy, because the knowledge that academia is giving, it might not be clear to the person consuming it how it should actually shape my behavior, my thought, and my action. So I want to share a really, really simple 1-minute video that really illustrates something that was one of the first things that Prof. Alicia mentioned, and that is narratives and ways of teaching and learning in a new learning process. So I'm going to share a very, very short video, and then I'll debrief it for a while, about 1 minute, and I'll be done. So give me just a moment. All right, can everyone see this video? Alicia, is everyone able to see the video?
Right. You need to start it first. I think it's a
All right.
black
Yes.
screen.
Yeah. All right. So here's the video.
Is it no sound at all?
Should there be any sound, Adam?
All right. Well, it must not have the sound. So that's the second time I've failed in sharing that video. But I'll tell you this because that's just as good. The young boy. This is a famous American TV show, and the young boy comes out of the bathroom. He's getting ready for bed, and his dad asked him, "Have you brushed your teeth?" And he said, "Just feel how wet the toothbrush is, so that you'll know that I brushed my teeth." Tell
We lost him.
Kind of lost you, Adam. Are you still there? Can you come back?
And dad says, what are you doing?" And he says, "I think I'll brush my teeth." So help, you'll have bad breath. But it wasn't until he shared a story about a young boy very similar to that young boy that the boy's behavior was actually transformed. And this is what a lot of what we're trying to do in social sciences research is the academy is trying to real world problems with real people, real leaders and organizations, women leading organizations in Malaysia and navigating those issues. Response to non-coronavirus. And my concern as a researcher
Adam, we're losing your audio there.
influence experiences. So, that's been my experience so far, kind of the exciting tip of the iceberg for me related to phenomenology.
Right. Thank you, Adam. What perhaps we'll do is we'll give Adam another chance to narrate his point of view there. But if we understand correctly, what Adam is saying is that when we talk about the worldview of the future, we need to understand that the narrative surrounding it actually colors the social reality, and we need to be able to appreciate the different worldviews that's coming from the social actors. And that is actually continuing from what Kat was talking about, dancing with the knowledge that you gain out there, and learning to be open and accept different contexts of what knowledge is all about. I'd like to continue this with Nabil, if you will, to perhaps go deeper and explain what the application of phenomenology has been for you and the learning process you went through.
Thank you, Prof. I really appreciate the way the Kate has actually discussed the difficulties she faced while going through the phenomenology. Similarly, I've faced lots of difficulties because, as you said, like phenomenology is basically actually driven by the and in medical research and in social scientists more. So when I actually started adopting phenomenology, and I came to know like this is the one that I can that could lead me towards the lived experiences, how alumni are actually feeling the experiences, how they are seeing their relationship with institutions after like graduating 20 years after graduation or 10 years after graduation. And what are the things actually they are those things that are actually building their perceptions, their attitudes, and their feelings towards engagement with institutions, because engagement is actually really which has appeared but that is really important for higher education institutions to build strong networks, to build financially sustainable systems. Okay, so when I actually started with phenomenology, I was really criticized and had a detailed discussion with lots of my researchers, my co-researchers, and they said like this is not the one that the marketeer should be doing. Actually, you should be doing a case study, you should be doing something else, but not at least a phenomenology, because phenomenology is actually bind with some other streams. So that was quite challenging for me, and I had a detailed debate with my co-researchers to come up with that, okay, this is the one that I need to go with. Now, when I decided to start with the phenomenology, as I said earlier, phenomenology opens up lots of things before you. At times, like Kate said, it's like a dancing thing. I see it as a disco puzzle. Okay, disco puzzle. It actually provides you at times the experiences takes you to a node, a road where there is no end. Okay, and at times you become in a close you end up in a closed street. Okay, so you don't have anything before you, and what you do is normally is then actually going through the books again, going through different researches again, talking to your phenomenologists. And unfortunate is that lots of people, since it's a very recent phenomena in the management sciences, so people are not following the phenomenology a lot in their research as a philosophy. Okay, so at times you end up in doing having a very confusing mindset that what should be done. So again, what remains is there again going and going through those experiences of alumni and reading those again and again and again. Now, when I actually started conducting my field study, it actually provided lots of interesting things. Like as I said, the focus is alumni engagement. Now, in my own research, I'm also insider because I'm also an alumni of the same universities. Okay, and luckily I had also remained manager for alumni department for one of the leading institutions in Pakistan. So I had become insider, and I had got a breadth of knowledge about how the things are happening. So I have to see at times my own thinking processes were actually interrupting with what experiences are coming up. So what I did was the tool that I actually used was maintaining a reflective diary. Okay, writing down my own thoughts about it. Okay, these things are my own thoughts. I shouldn't be matching up with these thoughts or including these thoughts with the thoughts of the respondents. So at times it becomes a quite tricky process, because you have to be what is no, said, like you have to be you have to keep your own thoughts aside from the what the respondent is saying, and you have to keep up with the internal logic and the experience of the respondent. So at times it become difficult and challenging, and when you actually started like I said, phenomenology gives a kind of like experiences that you never thought of. Even like in my case, if I share only one theme of my research, normally the practice that is actually the research says in the developed economies, when it comes to alumni engagement, the institutions drives the alumni engagement. Okay, but what I actually came to know from my own research and through having a detailed conversation, like I had more than 28 interviews and a focus group discussion, so those actually combinedly were giving me a quite rich insights about the experiences. And what the surprising thing that came up with was, in Pakistan context, the higher education institutions were not actually driving the alumni engagement. The alumni engagement was driven by the alumni themselves. And then I came to know that the alumni engagement culture is actually at a very lower stage, or would I say at a very immature stage in Pakistan. And that was again surprising thing for me. Like the alumni associations were not there. The if I could have done a case study method, if I say right now, like just for sharing, so I would have ended up in giving a one. Like a stance that institutions would have been saying like there are alumni associations, but when I came to have the people who are actually the what I say the pioneer members of alumni association are alumni actually themselves. So they said very clearly there is no alumni association culture in Pakistan, and that was again surprising thing for me because we are having a very old university setups in Pakistan, but unfortunately we don't have alumni association culture in Pakistan. So similarly, the different things, those actually that emerged from the experiences were quite interesting. And over here, I would like to include two things because I actually followed the. Let me show over here. Just share one slide. Uh, because I couldn't share. I don't know why. Okay. Okay. What I did was I followed the IPA methodology, the interpretive phenomenological analysis. Now, IPA methodology has got some interesting things. It has got a double hermeneutic cycle in it. You have to not only to unearth the new insights from the respondents, but at the same time you have to interpret those. But keeping one thing in mind that your own like you should be giving the real voices of the respondents rather than actually like posting your own or interpreting from your own angle all the things. You have to there's a thin line between when you're actually mixing up or interpreting your own thoughts along with how alumni have been actually experiencing that phenomena. So there is a thin line, and you have to that's the reason I said like it's a jigsaw puzzle. And at times you have to be highly conceptualized, should be at a higher conceptualization stage to know the things, to address the original account of the alumni and what they're actually experiencing, what they're actually saying. So in that way it's a very difficult thing. But at the end, I would say it has given me something very new, something very interesting, because if I say it has actually provided the practical contributions of my research are quite interesting. It has actually presented alumni as one of the most potential group of that could be engaged by the institutions for their long-term financial sustainability, and because alumni are ready to do it. Like if I quote one thing interesting over here, according to CAE, the Council for Aid to Education America 2020 report, it says the alumni are the highest contributors to financial sustainability of institutions, and they are actually giving a lot to institutions in individual monetary contributions. But interesting thing is when I actually started doing and asking probing alumni of Pakistani universities, like would they be actually going for how do they see the alumni engagement, they actually said we are ready to engage with institutions, but we are not ready to engage with institutions in individual monetary engagement. The reason, when I actually dig out the reason, they highlighted different things, like there is a financial conditions of their family, their financial needs of their family, the economic conditions prevailing in the country, and lots of other things that were actually backing up their argument that we are not ready to give the individual monetary engagement. And similarly, they highlighted, they weighted higher the non-monetary engagement as compared to the monetary engagement with institutions, which is actually a contradictory with the literature that is already available. So these are interesting things that I actually came up with. And similarly, when I see when you delve into the experiences of alumni and you let them free to speak a lot, they give lots of things that are actually not even you thought about. Okay, like I just share one thing over here. They said like the gender thing. there are cultural issues. There is a difference between the way female alumni engage with institutions and male alumni engage with institutions. And when I actually probe them up, they discuss lots of things. Like they discuss being an Islamic country, their religious issues are there, their religious bindings are there, their cultural bindings are there, the way female can't contribute, the way the male contribute. And these are interesting things that a phenomenologist can have when he or she is doing a phenomenology research, because I again would say it sets you free to float. But at the same time, you have to keep somewhere in your mind that, okay, I have to stop over here. These things are going out. And you have, so this is the way from the very beginning, it's lived experiences that you are actually going with, but you have to be a very active participant in the whole process. And finally, when you're going to interpret and report those findings, you have to be at a higher conceptualization level, because the things will be coming, like in my case, like there were like more than 500 pages of like transcripts, and you have to be you have to come up with the things, like you have to, if you're not conceptually at higher stage, you won't be able to bring those things out of it. Thank you from mine.
Thank you, Nabil. Yeah, you point out to the important point about, as an active researcher, you also need to do two things. While you listen attentively to the participant, you also need to understand what are the meanings behind what they say. That's going to the abstraction level, and that's wearing two hats at the same time, which all phenomenologists will have to do. So, Kathleen, I'm sure you have something to say about that. Over to you, Kathleen.
All right. To share the next, are we going to the next question about the learning process already?
Yes, the learning process, yes.
Sorry, because I'm in the dreaming mode. I'm dreaming what's happening now. All right. So remember I shared about this. This is a labyrinth. It's not a straight road, but you have to be willing to navigate the landscape, and then you discover something beautiful in the middle. But you have to be willing to allow yourself to be transformed, body, mind, and spirit. I say that because in the hermeneutic phenomenology, you go into the different dimensions of the lived space of the participants, the lived relationships, the lived time and body. You go back in time with them, like traveling in a time machine, you go back in time with them, understanding their context and background. And this is what I use, the Van Manen 6-step approach. I won't have time to go into step by step, but turning into the nature of lived experiences, investigating it, and then looking at teams, maintaining a strong orientation, balancing the context of the parts and the whole. It is very important because you can't just take one part and interpret. Hermeneutics is different. Hermeneutics is actually it came from the biblical time, because Heidegger was actually a theologian. Hermeneutics actually came from the art of interpreting sacred texts, biblical texts. It was also used in interpreting the Al-Quran as well. But this is nothing to do with sacred texts, but the philosophy of it is being used. So you cannot just interpret by reading one sentence that a woman say, my mother passed away when I was 2 years old, but you have to dig deeper, her tone of the voice, what she's saying now, and 20 times she's saying about the mother, about how she needs to make a difference in her life. So you need to listen to what is said, what is not being said, to the front of the story, to the back of the story, to the middle, to the gestures, to the emotions, to the facial expression, and so on. So the use of the hermeneutic cycle helps. So the data collection method, there are numerous. I wouldn't say that the key focus is actually the in-depth interview, observations, and also collection of anecdotes, stories. Collection of stories, that was actually most interesting. Today I can't share this with you, but it's another skill again to garner the stories from the people who were close to these women, and then observing them again, going into their space, and in-depth interviews, observing them, and so on. So this, using the hermeneutic cycle, I think Nabil has shared as well. The good thing about hermeneutical cycle is that the difference within transcendental phenomenology with hermeneutic phenomenology is Humanistic phenomenology, I call it HM, you are allowed to embrace your own very biasness. You're allowed to embrace your own very thinking. You don't have to do bracketing. You're allowed to embrace it. But then when you discover new knowledge, you must be able to let go of the old knowledge. You must be able to be willing to throw away the garbage that you were thinking about at first when you have the new knowledge. So in the back and forth iterative process, you then discover you discover the wisdom, we call it the Sophia, the wisdom of the knowledge, because you need time. And it's not something that you can push it. That's why doing this subject, you need time and you need to move around the circle. You immerse yourself. And sometimes I have to pinch myself for daydreaming too much. So I use the reflective journal. This reflective journal is almost full, it's this whole book is like reflective journal. And I'm an artistic person. Sometimes I also draw things that I see. And then sometimes I even chuck it away. I've got so many rubbish that I chuck away because I try to see whether is that the understanding. But the reflective journal is very critical because I pen my thoughts. When they talk about their father, when they talk about spiritual, sometimes I don't get it what they're trying to say. But after listening to more and more stories and putting it together, I may come to something which is linked to what they're saying. So this reflective journal is very critical, I would say. And this method is rigorous. To test yourself, to test myself, there must be richness in the aesthetic quality of the text, of the narrative, the story that you write, which means you must be a good story, not just a storyteller, but a story writer. You must do justice to tell the real story. You must keep on asking yourself the question, do I really represent what the women leader wanted to say, or am I just writing rubbish? Is it justified? Is it what is in her heart? Is there a strong orientation and engagement with these people? Or am I just touch and go and say that I have done a good job? Am I digging enough? Am I getting enough insights? Am I just satisfied? The answer is no, and it continues. The strength. Does the text have a convincing power of expressing the intrinsic meaning of the participants that is expressed in their stories? Do you have the ability as a HM to penetrate and express the intentions of the research participants? So it's all linked. So if the answer is no, I'm not there yet. I'm just playing by the surface of playing by the beach. I have not gone into the deep waters. I'm not gone into the deep jungle. It's not good enough. So you have to press further and go in further to have a rigor criteria. So this book actually helped me a lot. I discovered this book later when I reached out to Max Van Benen. I asked him to have a call with me to explain to me more about phenomenology. He said, no way I'm going to have a call with you to explain. I cannot explain in a call with you. You read this chapter, you see how the story is written, and you go do it, and you tell me what is phenomenology, because it's in doing it. You can never be perfect, but you go do it. So, I read the stories about, he shared the stories about interviewing people about keeping secrets, what does it mean to be keeping secrets? So the stories are very intriguing, and I see the style of writing. And but before that, I was working on his earlier text. But he said this text is a bit old. He said, "Why do you read this text?" But I ordered this text and I read through. But this text is very useful. It's about pedagogy, but it helped me a lot. It is through reading this text from cover to cover. It's very dirty now. This text, writing and everything. I ordered from the States, and I ordered a second-hand book, and I read this text. And it is from this text I learned about anecdotes, stories, getting stories from the people, getting them to tell stories. And the key takeaway that I wanted to share is this humanistic phenomenology is in fact a credible, rigorous, and creative strategy that we can all use. And I used it discovering phenomenon. I did not know anything about qualitative methods. I dive into it, and indeed, I discovered the leadership journey, and this is deeply embedded in human world, and it needs a human science paradigm. And indeed, the research strategy addressed richly in its context because it must be related to the context, and such opportunity is provided by this paradigm. And I'm indeed happy to have people like Prof. Elisha, Dr. Chris, to also coach me and guide me. So yeah, thank you. Thank you for my sharing. Thank you for the sharing.
Thank you, Kat. It's very insightful of how you have applied phenomenology in your actually research and discovering the world of the women who's going up the corporate ladder. I think the most important thing, perhaps, among the participants here, perhaps there are certain questions in your mind. There's a lot of sharing of phenomenology, but what does it mean if you were to apply it, phenomenology episteme in your research? How does it look like? What does it mean? What kind of new knowledge can you create? Can you discover that's unique? That you couldn't do it if you do not use phenomenology. And with the current pandemic and the new research landscape that we're in, could phenomenology be something useful when we think about future research that is very much structured, that is very much quantitative based, if you will? Perhaps at this point, if Adam could come in and share your own experience, how you applied phenomenology when you studied, studied the experience of expatriates in Malaysia, which is what I know what your research has been about. Perhaps, Adam, if you're here with us, and the participants
Yes.
can have a feel of what it means, how did you go about applying phenomenology in that context?
Yes, so I also followed very closely Max van Manen's Phenomenology of Practice methodology. I'm in the process of following it. I'm in data collection right now, so I'm right in the middle of applying phenomenology. So what it looks like is first we orient ourselves to a phenomenon, a lived experience that's shared by a group of people. So this would be something that sets phenomenology apart from ethnography, in that ethnography orients towards shared culture of a community. Phenomenology orients towards individuals experiencing a phenomenon in different ways. So what I'm interested in looking at is expatriate local interactions. So I don't just study the experiences of expatriates, and I don't just study the experience of Malaysians, but I want to know what is it truly like for them to interact. And this is a way to decolonize expatriation research, because both expatriate and locals have a strong voice in the research. So what you do is you figure out the phenomenon you want to experience, or you want to understand. For me, expatriate local interactions. And then you ask the question, who has experience with that phenomenon? And then you go ask them about it. And the way that you ask them about it is to try and get very concrete, detailed narrative accounts of interactions. That's what I think both of the other presenters have referred to as lived experience. So you want the concrete narrative lived experiences of expatriate local interactions. And then you simply cut out everything from the interview that isn't that. So if someone is pontificating about how they, don't get along well with this one coworker, and then they start speaking generally about, well, Malaysians are all like this, or someone says, well, the Mat Salleh is all like this. Those are not useful for researching lived experiences. We have to get to the detailed narrative content. And once we have that, we can look at these stories that we've collected, both line by line, paragraph by paragraph, and story by story. And we ask the question, what does this story tell us about the phenomenon? And so this is where we shift away from the individual and we try and filter out the things that are unique to the individual, and we keep the essence of the phenomenon. And then so we let each story inform what we know about the phenomenon. And once the stories have begun to share with us what the phenomenon is truly like, we figure out, okay, how do I present what I'm learning in a way that is moving, depthful, insightful, all the things that Kathleen shared. We present, at least in descriptive phenomenology, following Van Manen, we present a phenomenological essay or a series of writings that richly, with depth, true to the voice of our respondents, help anyone who reads the essay truly understand what the phenomenon is like. So my goal in my research is to present something where when Prof. Alicia, as one of my examiners, reads it, she truly understands at depth what it is like for expatriates and Malaysians to interact in multinational companies. She should understand not just about it, but she should be able to feel in an embodied kind of way what it really is like. And that should help her in her own understanding as she interacts with people from different cultures, because she also has experience with the phenomenon as well. So that's sort of the sequence. It begins with orienting ourselves towards the phenomenon, finding those individuals who have experience, asking them to share their stories, and then using those stories to produce a phenomenological text.
Right. Thank you, Adam. Do you want to explain a little bit more about what you showed in the video just now? Because your voice was breaking. Perhaps it gives us a chance to reflect from the story that you want to tell, the narrative behind the storyline in the video.
Sure, I can. I can try one more time. I apologize again for the technical issues. I shared a video of a young boy who was supposed to is good for tooth health and flossing is great and all these sort of things we know. But what he was actually doing is wetting his toothbrush so that his father would think he brushed his teeth. So the father knelt down and the father told his son a story about a young boy who did a very similar thing. He wet his toothbrush every night, he never brushed his teeth. And he thought it was so clever, and he smiled and laughed because he had tricked his father. But at the end of the story, the father shared with the son, eventually that boy stopped smiling. And the son asked the father, why did he stop smiling? And the father said, because he didn't have any more teeth left. They had all fallen out. So the son turns around and goes into the bathroom, and the father says, what are you doing, son? And he says, oh, I'm going to brush my teeth again. So the father had clearly shared some propositional knowledge about toothbrushing. You need to brush your teeth, keep your teeth healthy, you need to floss, all these things. But it hadn't yet shaped the behavior of the son. But when the father told a story and the son put himself in the shoes of that boy who was smiling, thinking he was so clever, and then one day he didn't want to smile anymore because he didn't have any teeth, the son finally understood what the father was trying to teach him and show him. And so I mentioned, I think in the first round, that phenomenology has gone back and picked up things that are far older than the philosophy of phenomenology. These are what folk tales are, moral stories, kisah rakyat, these sort of things. They are an embodied way of communicating what is true and right in a way that can shape worldview. So my desire, along with Neil and Kathleen, to take phenomenology and apply it in organizational studies and business studies. My desire is to bring that power of narrative teaching and story into our silo of research so that our results can actually shape behavior in complex social situations in a way that maybe easily codifiable themes or numbers aren't as able to do well, especially in turbulent times as we find ourselves in. Thank you.
Thanks for telling the story, Adam. I need to tell my son this story. He escapes brushing teeth. Tonight I will try this trick.
I think it's the same for me too, because
Let me know how it goes.
we need to do that with our family. I think the same with my son, actually. Thank you, Adam, for that story. I mean, Adam shared with us something important. Adam mentioned the context of Kisah Rakyat, and the same thing with Kisah organization, the story of organization, which actually, when you say story, narratives, it goes back to the folklore, the metaphor, the culture of organizations, the culture of individuals, the meanings we attach. They should not be lost because of how we see the world should be. We want to continue to tell the story and retell the story from the meanings that are different, that is not being, that's lost, and that actually can help shape the way perhaps the world should transform, because the society gives meaning to it in a way that is important, that we need to understand. So that I think there is a poignant note being touched by Adam, actually, there. And falling from that, perhaps this is perhaps the last round closing of the conversation, where perhaps Nabil and after that Kat can come in and share the insights you gain from your research on alumni engagement and accessibility of universities. The narrative, the stories you did share just now, perhaps you want to go on and explain to us the importance of the narratives that can shape the changes of the future of organization, especially where universities. Nabil.
Yeah. Okay. Before going into the my own research, like Adam actually discussed his discussion actually triggered me to discuss something. Yeah. Like as I said earlier, I was struggling to adopt the phenomenology in the marketing domain because it's normally like not suitable for marketing domain, as my co-researchers used to discuss. So when I actually started, because I have been studying a lot, the book they shared, like When Man and different books, I have been studying a lot, because it is unfortunate, but it's reality. It's hard to find the phenomenologist around you in this region, in this region of the world. Yeah. Okay. So what the beauty of phenomenology in general, if I see, like say the descriptive phenomenology, it has got a different beauty, because there is a question about the types of phenomenology. So let me address that question as well. There are two, basically. There are, although, like more 4 to 5 types of phenomenology, but generally there are 2 types of the phenomenology. One is like descriptive phenomenology, another one is like that one is Husserl's phenomenology, and another one is like the hermeneutic phenomenology. Okay, the descriptive phenomenology only stays with how it experience, how it feels is to experience. Like the Adam says, one brushing, like if a marketing company which is actually producing a toothbrushes, and it conducts a study on how it feels to brush their toothbrushes, actually. So what they actually will be doing is they will be conducting a phenomenology study with limited participants, and they will see how it actually feels like brushing those their teeth with the brushes that are produced by the company. And they will be actually sharing different like it's smooth, it's hard, it is hard in how it feels in holding your hand. It is like flexible, it's not flexible. Now these things are actually talked, and these are the experiences, because what phenomenology actually has given me is some unique insights how alumni, how institutions can build strong relationships with their alumni, because every alumni has got a different instance. Like let me share you one very, very good example of my own research. As I said, I actually followed the interpretative phenomenological analysis. There is a one instance called ideographic nature of IPA. Now, ideographic nature, actually, what it tells is you have to focus on even one instance, one narrative, one experience that is highlighted by your respondents, even that if it actually carries some weightage. Like one of the person out of like 22, he highlighted one instance like the meaningfulness of association with the meaningfulness of the engagement with the institution. Now when he says meaningfulness, he says I'm highly engaged until now, but what I'm actually looking at, how institution is carrying that engagement along in the coming years. If is that engagement creating a meaningful or productive experience for me? Like if I say meaningful, he said meaningful in terms of what I'm getting out of it. I don't need anything like because I'm sacrificing my family commitments, I'm sacrificing my organizational commitment. That's why actually I'm actually coming up and engaging with the institution. Now if he says like if that experience is actually meaningful and an association is meaningful in coming years, so I'll be doing connecting it. When I asked him what do you mean by the would like to explain meaningfulness, he said, is there any chance that my institution would engage my family along with me if they are creating such events where I can bring in my family in, when I where I can or my organization, I can bring in my organization and along with my own engagement. So he said like these are the meaningful instances that actually will help me to continue my engagement with the institutions. Now see, in my own study actually provides lots of things where like one of these like meaningfulness, alumni drives engagement. There is a dearth of alumni engagement culture, and what are the people like looking at, what are the like there is a communication deficit of from the institutional end. There is a high communication deficit when it comes to the absence of institutions presence on online domains, online social media platforms. So these are the things which will help the practitioners, particularly the advancement professionals working in the institutions, or alumni engagement professionals working in the institutions, the Higher Education Commission of Pakistan, the people who are working there at the higher level body, to devise certain strategies how they could engage their alumni, because the developed economies are doing it. Let me quote one thing. The research says in the US only, the 50% of their budgets are now actually being contributed by the alumni. Over here, we don't have even a concept of alumni engagement. Now, it actually came up from this study. Now, Phenomenology actually has provided a detailed account of how institutions should go along and how they should revisit their relationship and communication with alumni, and how they should be devising certain strategies so that they could actually sustain a good relationship with their alumni and actually leverage from their potential for their long-term financial sustainability. But in general, and your the question that how phenomenology is actually changing play its role in the changing landscape of the world, I would say it actually provides you some unique experiences, and unique experiences actually hold more weightage than if we are going to have like one like giving a one close-ended questions and asking people like yes or no things. Although no doubt in it, those surveys also give strong data to produce certain strategies. But along with that, when we are actually talking about the experiences of the respondents, phenomenology is the best way to go along with. This is my take on it. Thank you.
Thank you, Nabil. Again, you are pointing out something important. When we study any topic or research inquiry, it is the topic of inquiry that dictates whether it's the choice of your method, choice of episteme fits in the research inquiry or not. And most important that when we consider the context of discovery of new knowledge, the takeaway from what has been shared by now is it's quite clear that the narratives that's embodied in the social actors' reality is a key in understanding understanding the reality of the social actors. And phenomenology is actually very much data driven, that's qualitatively rich, and that I would like to call upon Kat as the last panelist here again, to share with us the insights, perhaps a concluding insight that she gained from applying the futures phenomenology episteme.
Yeah, thank you for calling on me. There's so many things to share. I'm not so sure where to start, but what I wanted to say is that in my recent paper that I shared middle of December, the title of the paper was Seeds of Leadership, and that was one part of my research question. It actually talks about the women leaders, their leadership journey, starting from young, how they actually acquired the practice of leadership, how they were given the opportunity to practice leadership even without them knowing, such as responsibilities at home, opportunities in school, a teacher, conversations or dialogues from the father, even the hardships that they experience, and so on and so forth. So there were many findings actually, and it came out. The paper is going to come out this month or beginning of January in the PJMS, Polish Journal of Management Studies. It's entitled The Seeds of Leadership. So look out for it. So this is just one part of it actually. So there are some important information that also talks about these women, that talks about their spirituality from young and how it gave them confidence. Because this was not something which I thought that was important, but every one of them mentioned it. Is their belief in God, their spirituality, and how they overcame and how they gained confidence, difficulties when they were young, and so on. But many of them shared about their hardships. Of course, these stories are so personal to them, but it helps them to be resilient and so on. And all these things, about 11 findings, 4 or 5 in the area of personal relationships that they had when they were young, and another 5 of their experiences contributed to their leadership emergence. In fact, these were the 4 shadows of their leadership emergence. So which means that fathers or parents, if you have young daughters, do not forget that you actually have a role to plant the seeds of leadership from a very young age for these female women. Their leadership is not built yesterday, but it's built from when they were young. So parents, school teachers, caregivers, communities need to be very, very alert of their key role that they play. So I'm going to be sharing this paper to the Penang Women's Development Corporation. They have asked me to share about the findings, because if they find these findings to be critical, what should they be doing? They should incorporate leadership skills in school intentionally. Every teacher, whether it's a school teacher or sports teacher or whatever, needs to be very intentional in helping women leaders. So that is in the long term to help us close the leadership gender gap in Malaysia. We are at 104 over 153 in the global gender leadership, in the global gender gap. We are at the lower rung, Malaysia. It's sad, but we need to do something. So yeah, that's what I wanted to share.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Adam, Nabil, and Kat. All 3 panelists have actually shared with us the most important point here, and that is when you want to discover new knowledge, it is the unstructured approach in understanding where knowledge is coming from, what knowledge is about, and to feel the knowledge through the social actors' point of view is a very important part of what phenomenology is about. Now, as I as I listened to the three panelists, there was one key question that is coming from the chat box, and that's coming from Ali. And Ali is asking whether one important point is, I just wanted to relate to the context of ethnography. How is ethnography is in any way similar to phenomenology? Is it a sister to phenomenology or otherwise? Perhaps I could share here that phenomenology and ethnography, they share the same context of how you address knowledge. It is the lived experience is very important. But there is one important context of where ethnography is different from phenomenology, in the sense that as a researcher, you are an ethnographer. So as an ethnographer, you look for the hidden narratives, not just the narratives as being explained by the social actor, is also what's hidden and not seen. And to know what's hidden and not seen narratives, you ethnographers normally are living with the communities. They live and breathe and do what the communities do in order to understand what the hidden narratives are. So, in other words, ethnographers, they are themselves the tool of analysis. They are the research to themselves. They give the meaning from the context of what they see is hidden. Whereas in phenomenology, while we look at the narratives, we also confirm with the social actors what the narratives means. So that is one big difference between phenomenology and ethnography. And as you will, most ethnographies, there are quote unquote also sociologists where they stay with the community. They have particular research that relates to being with the community itself to understand what the community is going through, the lived experience of the community itself. So, and in that sense, when we talk about ethnography is very much inductive. As a strategy, a paradigm of research strategy, whereas phenomenology may be inductive, but many times it also is abductive, where you actually understand the meaning of the social actors and you narrate the phenomenon of the social actors, like, if you will, what Nabil, Kat, and Adam has shared with us. So thank you, Ali, for that question. And with regards to the different school of thoughts that exist in phenomenology, that perhaps we can have one more session about that, where we discuss the different traditions within phenomenology. But what is being shared today is, we look at the context of phenomenology that has been shared by all of us today here, is we're looking at the context of hermeneutics, the context of understanding, interpreting the text itself, interpreting the conversations, the life experience of the social actors, and it is very much driven from the documentation of the narratives of the social actors itself. And I would like to, perhaps, if you have any questions that everyone else has here, please go on, work on it through the chat box, as I, at this moment, share a particular point. As I moderate this, I would like to share a part of the slide that I prepared as part of the conclusion here. And this is with regards to looking at what phenomenology means and the future of research landscape. I like to bring out the context of banal creativity. If you will, all three different panelists here looks into understanding lived experience, if you will, the mental constructs of our panelists here today. Like Adam was talking about, understanding the knowledge embodied in the social actors. Nabil is talking about understanding the reach, understanding about alumni and how they feel about how they would like to engage with the university, and it's very much the social reality that is community centered towards what they the social actors think as a group, what they feel, what engagement is all about. And Kat is talking about the narratives of each and every one of the individual corporate leaders, women corporate leaders, and how they make sense about the challenges, if you will, about the lives that they went through, the worldviews of the individual actors themselves. So in that context, there is a lot of creativity in process that goes through and understanding the worldview of each and every social actors that they experience through their research. And I like to bring up the context of banner creativity here for all of us researchers here, that when we think about research, we will be able to move towards a state of where we see the emerging systems. Adam was talking about understanding the patterns emerging from the phenomenon, understanding the structures that exist within the phenomenon. Can we, while looking at the natural structured patterns that we go through, which is deductive-based reasoning, where we have hypothesis reasoning coming out of it, can we also, at the same time, open up our minds and look at emerging new deep structural patterns and explore new ways of making sense of the phenomena observed in the present? So, so we are not being fixated with what's expected to look for when you look at knowledge, but be able to open our minds and look at the unknowns. It therefore is an open loop approach. Rather than looking at it a deductive approach, it could be inductive, it could be abductive, it could be retroductive in discovering new knowledge. And based on that, for anyone of you who are interested, there is such a thing what we call participatory foresight, and look at anticipatory systems where the epistemology of phenomenology actually fits in very well, where you look at the unknowable unknowns, you look at sense making, you look at worldviews, you look at the mental emotional frames, and what all three panelists have studied actually in every way play a role in and looking at the implication of the research vis-a-vis what are new, what can we anticipate in the future about the expatriate interactions with the society. What can we anticipate in the future surrounding sustainability of university with regards to alumni engagement? What can we foresee the kind of policies that we should put in place with regards to women, mainstreaming women into the leadership system in Malaysia itself? So this in itself actually allows us to contribute to new, what we call, I would say, the new social incentive structures, if you will, the kind of changes we can make in organization, in the communities, in the society, where we let go of current use futures, where we are also now so used to current use futures, where it's all about what we see. That is, the images that we see today are about urban cities, tall buildings, market economy, the network economy. Yet there are a lot of changes out there looking into the social economy movement with regards to where the society comes in and take over the economy, or the slow food movement, where the context of the industrial movement is now giving way to community taking over and taking care of the lives as they as they feel is much more sustainable for them in the future. And with the pandemic, there is even more reason for us to understand what are we not questioning about the future that we should be questioning. And phenomenology perhaps opens the way for us to understand as we said just now, the unknowns, the unknowable unknowns. So if I could show you these images of the university where you are part of right now, University USM before in 2005, we talked about the future in 2025, where are we going to be the a la carte university, which therefore means here as an a la carte university, you are allowing different ways of understanding knowledge. There is a mix of knowledge in there. It is not anymore quantitative versus qualitative. It is more about understanding a different way of understanding knowledge, different way of researching the unknowns. Are we ready to move outside of our comfort zone to understand knowledge in different ways? And with that, this is where we should always allow ourselves to energize ourselves into the flowering of the minds, where a university in a garden is a university where we allow a plethora of new knowledge that is not known before about organization, about society, that allows us to be able to delve into the context of allowing different unstructured ways of discovering knowledge, as phenomenology is one episteme that we can use. And in that regards, I would like to end the session by saying that all knowledge and knowing contains an element of novelty, insofar as the experience of arriving at one meaning rather than another, and insofar as it allows new unstructured approaches in the research inquiry. So phenomenology allows us to delve into something and allows us to arrive at one meaning that's different from other. And as we do that, we are actually allowing the elements of novelty to come out. And it also allows knowledge can only come out from unstructured approaches in research and inquiry. And I believe this is actually the important way, important angle, perhaps, to conclude from here that novelty and knowledge can only come from understanding the unstructured approaches, going out of your comfort zone to understand what knowledge is about. Right, and with that sharing, perhaps this will help us move to the next level of another series of webinar later on, where we take note of the research landscape in a different way, as you will. So with that, thank you, Nabil. Thank you, Kat. Thank you, Adam. Thank you to all participants who have come through and listened to and be part of the conversations today. I hope this is of help in terms of us encouraging us to look at unstructured approach in looking at knowledge, research inquiry. And for those who missed the session and was not with us earlier on, I have in the chat box the streaming in YouTube, so perhaps you can catch it at some other time, if you will. And I would like to thank all for participating. And before we go, can we have the pictures of everyone here, your video on, so that we could have a photography session with everyone?
Group photo.
The group photo that you.
Adam is still in his car.
Yes, Adam.
It must be very late now, like early morning now.
Yeah, thank you everyone who are here. I know a few of you here. I know Iko. Thank you, Iko, for being here. Thank you,
Proper.
Thank you. The PhD students who are here. Laili, I know you are our DBA student. Thank you, Abang Riza, for being here. My brother-in-law is here today. Who else is here? And we have your video on. Ready? We'll do the photo.
How about Adam? Adam,
Adam, you think you can switch on? Right. Okay. All right. We'll take the picture now. 1, 2, 3. All right. There you go. Perhaps one more time. Perhaps if you're with your thumbs up, everyone. 1, 2, 3. All right. Thank you all. Thank you very much. Thank you for participating, and hope to see you in our next Futures webinar series. Looking at the research landscape again. Thank you, everyone, and have a good evening. Thank you all. Bye-bye.
thank you, Prof. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Nabil. Thank you, Adam, and everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks, Prof.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
And meeting tomorrow.